I'm Danny Flexen. Welcome to the latest edition of SecondsOut ReFLEXions. I'm here every Monday, 4:30 PM, to talk about the boxing action of the weekend just gone. And with all due respect to the crushing victory by Virgil Ortiz Jr. over Mean Machine, Edegijus Kabaliauskas, easy for me to say, and also the less dominant win for John Riel Casimero over Guillermo Rigondao, which got a lot of criticism for not being eventful enough for some, or in some quarters. I'm going to be focusing predominantly on the Fight Camp show as it took place in the UK at prime time, and I watched the vast majority of it on DAZN. And it had a fair bit of criticism, particularly for the undercard. Not that there wasn't talent on display, but I think there was a run of maybe 3 fights in a row that were all pretty one-sided and didn't feature kind of explosive knockouts or rapid-fire exchanges. Saw the likes of Hopey Price, who did score a knockdown in the final round, and then Cash Farouk, previous to that, who was fairly dominant in his victory at bantamweight. And then the chief support, Michael McKinson, still unbeaten after going through Przemysław Ranowski. Again, not the most exciting of contests for the more, I don't know what you'd say, the more casual audience, I suppose. For the purist, there was plenty to enjoy. But I guess boxing in some ways is like a variety show. You want a bit of something for everyone. And when you see a run of kind of 3 skillful operators very much outboxing rather than outgunning their opponents, it can be a little bit wearing. We were glad, I think there was a collective sigh of relief amongst boxing Twitter when Joe Cordina uncorked a big right hand to finish his fight early and produced probably the best, certainly the most explosive performance of his professional career. And we got to quickly move on to what was a very entertaining main event, it must be said. Just before I go on to that, touching on the undercard, I think it would have been helpful to put Raymond Ford against Ricards Bolotniks on the main card. And that's not being kind of clever in hindsight, because it turned out to be quite an exciting fight over the 3 rounds it lasted. But also, I'd said previously, I thought it might be the fight of the night. Wasn't as competitive as I expected it to be, and I'm happy to put my hands up to that. But definitely would have been more watchable, perhaps, and a nice change of pace if it had fitted in between a couple of the longer distance contests. And then you've got Buatsi against Ricards Bolotniks in the main event, which was, as I say, very entertaining. Buatsi, this was supposed to be his acid test for potentially making an assault in genuine terms on the world scene. Bolotniks, patchy record, but on great form, had won the MTK's Golden Contract tournament, beating quality opposition in each round to do so, and came full of confidence, looked big and fit and strong at the weigh-in, and proved incredibly game on the night. Certainly had his successes, particularly in the middle rounds. It seemed at one point where Buatsi had almost emptied the tank to try and get Bolotniks out of there at one point, that the comeback could have been on for the Latvian. Didn't turn out like that. Buatsi did enough to remain in charge and then eventually get a highlight reel finish in round 11. But we saw kind of the best and worst of Buatsi in that fight. It was only his second contest under head trainer Virgil Hunter, who I'm sure still sees plenty of things in Buatsi that he can improve. But the Olympic bronze medalist still had a decent enough outing and got enough coming back at him that he'll have learned plenty from the fight. I think Buatsi, starting with the positives, was dictated the pace well, remained composed for the most part. Excellent jab, which he varied. Decent movement coming forward, intelligent offense, good shot selection, worked the body well. But I think something I noted on Twitter when the fight was going on was that if his defensive responsibility was as acute as his offensive creativity, then we'd have a genuine, potentially elite fighter on our hands. But defensively, there were plenty of things to worry about. I think if you're a Buatsi fan, he didn't move his head much. He rarely does in previous fights, but it was particularly notable against an accurate, busy fighter like Bolotniks. And he took enough right hands over the top and left hooks to the body that made you feel against a bigger puncher. And Bolotniks, for all his talents and physical strength, isn't noted as a massive puncher, you'd have think Buatsi could be in, you know, serious danger against someone who can really dig. Doesn't move his head much, doesn't tuck up well enough on the inside either, I think it's fair to say. And his footwork when on the retreat or trying to move laterally, he doesn't keep his hand placement perfect when that's happening. He's not, especially for a Virgil Hunter fighter, at least so far, he's not as defensively responsible as he needs to be. So there's good and bad, and I think a lot of people saying, well, is he ready now for a world title challenge? Is he ready for the WBA champion? Because this was a WBA eliminator, Dimitri Bivol, who works with Eddie Hearn, of course, so on paper, a very easy fight to make. If they were to fight in the next contest in a few months, I would be backing, I mean, I'd want Buatsi to win, but I would be backing Bivol. He would be the favourite. I think he's far more seasoned at top level. I think physically he's probably, you know, not as strong as Buatsi. He's not the biggest light heavyweight, but just incredibly experienced, both amateur and pro. He's fought some top competition. Not always the most exciting, but gets the job done, very effective, and more of a rounded, complete fighter, and right balance between offense and defense compared to Buatsi at this stage. I think Buatsi's ceiling, given he started boxing quite late, he's still got a lot of raw elements that can be worked on. It's only his second fight, as I say, under Virgil Hunter. I think his ceiling could be higher than Bivol, who's already getting on a bit and doesn't seem as fresh, perhaps, as he once was. Although Buatsi may not look fresh if he goes through too many more fights like the last two he's had, two of the last three he's had against Marko Kalic and now against Bolotniks, you know, sandwiching that rather easy fight in between. So, yeah, I think another couple of learning fights and another 2 training camps, more importantly, under Hunter out in America, away from distractions, where he can really embed his style and those kind of nuances, particularly defensively, into Buatsi, and he'd stand a far greater chance of beating a Bivol. Who those fights could come against is open to question. I saw a lot of people mentioning Sergei Kovalev. Is he on the downslide? Certainly seems to be. End of a long, hard career, and by hard, I don't just mean in the ring. I mean the way he's lived his life outside as well. I think that could be a good fight for Buatsi, a dangerous one, because Kovalev can still punch. But I think Buatsi could dictate that fight. I think he could dictate the pace. I think he could push Kovalev back. Not necessarily bully him, but I think he could stay in control of the fight long enough to get a decision or a late stoppage. And then that may be the kind of bridge of fight that prepares him truly for world level, or genuine world level. Kovalev is world level, but an actual world title shot. Sullivan Barrera is another name that's come up. I'm not sure. I'd favour Buatsi quite heavily in that one. I think Sully B's had, you know, a lot of tough fights, considering all at the top level, and he's a good measuring stick, but I'm not sure he gets Buatsi ready for world level any more than Bolotniks does. Callum Johnson's another one to be mentioned, but I just don't know, unless there's loads and loads of money on the table for that fight, given Johnson's now with Frank Warren as well, different promoters, and also the fact that they both want world title shots. They're both heading towards the same goal. They don't really want to go through each other to get there if they can help it. Not sure that one makes sense either. So I'm kind of on board with the Kovalev fight. Wouldn't mind seeing that. But yeah, Buatsi, 1 or 2 more fights first before the world title shot. I would say 1 or 2 more camps with Hunter. I don't think he's quite ready yet, although I'm interested to see what you guys think in the comments below. And just a note on Fight Camp, started incredibly well. The first card, even with the dropout of Conor Benn, was still the best card by far on paper and as it transpired in the ring. And what was interesting, we all kind of noted this, or a number of us noted this at the press conference last week, is that the first press conference for the Fight Camp week 1 was absolutely rammed. Everyone was excited about the launch, the first kind of DAZN co-branded thing in the UK as well. Everyone was really great. Then the second one, not quite as busy. You know, the card wasn't quite as strong. And then last week, the press conference was very, very quiet. Very few video crews there. Not a lot of national press there in comparison to the first 2. And it just seemed like some of the initial impetus and enthusiasm had waned. I mean, the good thing about DAZN is that they never stop moving. I think from what Eddie Hearn was saying, they got a week off and then it's 17 straight weeks in a row with live boxing on the channel. And each card that gets announced seems to be better than the previous one. The Leeds card looks really good. The Liverpool card after that looks even better. You know, top to bottom looks absolutely stacked. And that's not stacked in an Eddie Hearn promo sense. It's a genuine snack coming from, you know, I like to consider myself a hardcore fan as well as a journalist. So yeah, DAZN seem to be going from strength to strength. I think they could have done with a more exciting end to Fight Camp, though. I mean, obviously last year it was on Sky Sports box office, so it's not an apples and apples comparison. But Dillian Whyte getting shockingly dispatched by Alexander Povetkin was the exclamation point on Fight Camp last year. This time around, we didn't really get anything quite at that level. We didn't get any names of that level on the card in itself. But I suppose what concerns me and what may concern those at DAZN, I have no idea, is that they've talked about the $199 price point staying until the end of Fight Camp. If an announcement is forthcoming in the next couple of weeks about the price going up, they could have made that proclamation on the back of a better, more exciting show, because then people would be more accepting of the fact that their $199 is now going to triple. I'm mixing up two words there. Treble or triple, you choose pick your poison. But yeah, if it goes up to $5.99, or even if it goes up 5 times to $9.99, either way, I think, you know, a better, more exciting card would have encouraged them to be more understanding of the price rise. Although, if they've heard about the Leeds show and then even more so the Liverpool show, I think that softens the blow quite a lot. I think I'll be sticking with DAZN without any doubt, as long as it doesn't go up more than $9.99, which I don't expect it to. It might even be less. But it'd be good to hear again from people out there. What do you think? Have DAZN done enough with Matchroom so far, whether it's the talent team on screen or the fights themselves, or a combination of the two, to convince you that when the price goes up, you will stick with them, or if you're not with them yet, that you'll sign up? Let me know what you think. Meanwhile, I'll be back on Thursday for FLEXpectations, looking ahead to next week's action, and the next ReFLEXions will be next Monday, both at 4:30 p.m. Really appreciate you watching. Please give me your comments below, and I'll look forward to reading them.